What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. And today we got a big video for you. Today is the entire story of Imperial, spearheaded by Jonathan Hickman. A story said to be of intrigue, mysteries, war, all of it taking place in the backdrop of the formation of a new galactic order in the Marvel Universe. So we have the likes of the Hulks, the Black Panthers, the Novas, the Guardians, Cosmic Kings and Queens alike. But in the shadows, deception lurks. Plotting and scheming, Black Bolt and his brother, they plan to see the rise of the Inhuman Empire, covering the entirety of the event from start to finish. With that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright guys, so as we're starting off this new story, it opens us up with two mysterious figures playing chess. We have to assume two cosmic beings playing at each other. And we know that the game they're playing at, the stakes are not small. As we see the opening move, the first act of this game is always the same. Somebody has to die. That's what takes us to Gateway 231B. We pick up with Amadeus and Jen. We are currently aboard the Hulk ship, and Bruce has asked both of them to come along. That is because the son of Hulk, he is dead. They pick up on the new world of Scar. If there was one bright shining center of the universe, this planet was farthest from it. This is a war planet. So when Hulk, She-Hulk, and Brawn all step foot on ground, what they see is the city in flames. Right now, the city is rioting. It is in chaos when it should be mourning the fallen king. Hero Kala has fallen, and with his fall, this has emboldened others. When a gladiator steps up to the Hulks, he slices one of the guards in half, and then he turns to Worldbreaker himself, asking if he has any words that he wished to speak regarding Hero Kala. But the Hulk has no words. The Hulk simply puts him down. When the gladiator asks for mercy, Hulk tells him that he's on the wrong planet, smashing this dude's brains in. Hulk has to ask the question, have I been gone so long? Have my people forgotten who I am? Do you not know my name? When the crowd says Worldbreaker, we start to get some information. Hero Kala dies. No one knows how. Seems to be a mystery thus far, but we know that it wasn't natural causes. By all appearances, it looks to be poison. It looks to be murder, with murder being the same as defeat here on this planet. Being defeated means he could no longer rule, no longer the rightful ruler of this testing world. So all his political marriages, they were immediately annulled. The former wives of Hero Kala, them and their families are vying for the throne. People are seeking power. Hulk needing more answers. He goes to the scientists. What they know is that this was in fact poison. In fact, it was two poisons. A compound that would be difficult for anybody to detect. But after a thorough examination and due to their generational expertise, they see that this was two poisons working in tandem. One poison highly adaptive to the host, constantly changing to the hardness of its victim. Once it found a weakness, the second poison would activate. It would be direct and unyielding. Now this is where Bruce and the others, they have to ask the question, how did you know to look for this? How did you know where to look? And they knew where to look because in the last 2 weeks, this is the fourth leader of the Union Worlds that has been murdered in the exact same manner. Whether it be sovereign, tyrant, or head of state, someone is assassinating all of these galactic leaders. We pick up later at the fire, the ceremony for the young fallen, Hero Kala, son of the Worldbreaker. They return him to the flames. Returning him to the flames, this is when Hulk tells She-Hulk that I'm gonna need you and Cho to stay. He's gotta find out where this poison came from. While he's away, he's gonna need someone here taking care of the family business. This world still recognizes Hulk's authority, but the War of Succession, it will resume. That is assured. There has been a declared period of mourning, 5 days for the former wives of Hero Kala, but that peace will not last an hour if there is not someone here to remind them of the real real power on this world. She-Hulk agrees. She agrees to stay for the 5 days. Hulk saying that you have my word, I will return in those 5 days. But this is one promise that Hulk would end up breaking. This is what takes us to the Fulcrum City. This is the galactic hub of the universe. The primary construction on this hub was completed 2 cycles ago. Now, a secondary phase is already currently underway. This is supposed to be a nexus for both intergalactic travel and trade between Council territories, while others would believe that the true reason for its existence is the formation of a centralized political power structure and an origin point for what is suspected to be a formalized union of the Galactic Council systems. Of course, all Council members have denied such rumors. This is what picks us up with Star-Lord and his father. Now, Star-Lord's dad kind of runs this joint, the head honcho in charge of this place, but they're currently facing a predicament as well. Empress Victoria, his daughter, Star-Lord's sister, she has also been poisoned. They currently have her in a kind of cryostasis, so the poison can't get any further into her body. They're gonna try to find a cure and save her life. But because of this, Peter's father has to take over as Emperor. If his half-sister dies, she's gonna make the 4th leader inside the Galactic Council to mysteriously perish on the eve of their largest meeting in cycles. There's gotta be something more to this. This is not coincidence. Telling Peter that you gotta understand the situation. As soon as the council is assembled and called into session, he loses control of the situation. It will get political. It will involve more than just his people. So he needs someone acting on behalf of the system. Someone from the outside. He's not talking about Star-Lord. He needs Star-Lord to go find somebody else. Somebody that has a mind for solving crimes. This is what takes us to the underbelly. We pick up at a little hole-in-the-wall bar. This is where we find Rich. This is where we find our Nova, one of the last 2 Novas in the universe. The homeworld of the fabled Nova Corps had been destroyed, taken out in the Annihilation Wave. Now all that remains of that culture are 2 Novas. That and the long-dormant world mind of that society. When Nova asks Peter why he's here, the 2 of them begin their conversation, and we're hopped over to Gladiator. They're talking about everybody that has arrived. The Hulks have shown up on site. The Kree Skull delegation, they have arrived as well. But there is only one group that is missing so far, the Wakandans. Their current position clearly stated. They're comfortable with their existing treaties, and they see no reason to insult any of their allies by breaking any contracts or informal agreements. Now, the Emperor is going to go on to say that they're not able to mass produce the latest generation of Stargates without vibranium, and they obviously can't afford the vibranium at the current cost. Facts that the Wakandans are very aware of. The question is, are they playing for wealth or are they playing for power? Though it could be for both. With Peter's father having to excuse himself from the situation because something's come up. This is when he takes off and he meets up with Hulk. They go on to discuss the current situation. His daughter lying in stasis. Hero Kala murdered. Beyond what they already know, nothing's been confirmed. But since they're here, he would like to invite them to sit down at the Galactic Council meeting to see what's ahead for the universe and all the worlds she contains. But he does say that I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that your son had to be lost, had to pay that price in whatever is happening. Now, Hulk goes on to say that Hero, he hated me. The circumstances don't really matter. All that matters is Hulk failed him in some way, and that's something he's never going to be able to fix. A life full of regrets, unforgettable sins. He feels like this might be the worst, and this makes him unimaginably angry. This is what takes us back over to Nova and Star-Lord as they sit down and watch a cage fight. Peter's really trying to convince him, I need you to come help us out. I need you to join the team. I need you to investigate what's going on. Now, Nova's gonna say that he's retired. He also wants nothing to do with this. Like, yeah, he knows Peter. They can get along. But last he checked, Peter was a criminal. His father, a power-hungry aristocrat. Just a different type of criminal in his mind. More often than not, it's a good bit worse. He tells them nothing personal, but your money is no good here. This is is what takes us to our council meeting. The Emperor has discovered who is responsible. This was supposed to be about bringing this empire together, all the empires to one. But after these murders, they have discovered who's responsible. He tells everybody that it is one of you. All of them were killed by the exact same poison. This has been confirmed by the medical hive of this council. Both poisons coming from two different places. One coming from the scroll, the other coming from the Kree. Now obviously Teddy and Wiccan, they both oppose this. Ronan the Accuser as well, trying to understand what's going on as the panic begins to spread, the chaos ensuing. Teddy's people step forward, his scientists step forward, and they say that it was in fact them. They did create this poison. They were contracted to create a compound toxin. They make weapons of war, and that's exactly what they did. But they're not the ones that used it. They delivered it. They delivered it to other parties of the council. When he goes to give more information, this is when a bullet goes right through his head. The scientist assassinated. A sniper in the ranks. One that is using gravity rounds, firing from a hidden location, with 2 rounds going out. We see the third fire, and it hits Star-Lord's father, being able to triangulate the location of our assassin. Hulk finds himself face to face with a Wakandan. The Wakandan hitting a grenade. This grenade detonates. With its detonation, the protective glass that was keeping everybody safe explodes. The bodies go flinging into space. Our Wakandan taking off. We pick up a little bit later. 12 dead, 3 more heads of state, and more than twice the number missing. A great war machine is forming. Ronan has summoned the accusers. Most of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard is en route. Deathbird has called an audience. Everyone is gathering. As they gather, we see Peter picking up his father's ring, more than likely taking on the mantle of his father. This is where we see Nova stand before him. Hearing what happened, he tells him that I want to help. He's gonna help him catch the people that did this. We pick up an hour later. They start with what they have learned. Ronan has evidence and judgment in his heart. The council medics removed the ballistics from the victim's body and scoured the station security of the attacker, while the accusers of New Hollow were really able to do a rapid analysis of who paid the science minister for the poison. 2 streams of data that flow into a roaring river of guilt. The accusers trace the payments of the bank back to the banking houses of Wakanda Prime. The bullets taken from the bodies were made of vibranium. It is without question. The evidence all points to Wakanda. When asked what we will do now, there is no question on what happens next. There is blood on their feathers, the bitter taste of betrayal in their mouths, one that will not go unanswered. There is only one thing that can follow. War is coming. While Nova and Star-Lord have been trying to figure out who is behind all of this, and for anybody that was there that day, everyone believes that Wakanda was responsible. But our opening panel, it shows us someone else. A mysterious individual that is hiding in the shadows. They debate on what causes conflict. Now, the swimming fish, it says all conflict spins from the axis of scarcity, that it breeds contempt, even with so-called allies. But telling it to take another look, what we see is a new alliance of worlds constructed on the back of an enhanced Stargate system that is dependent on vibranium, a rare element that naturally only exists inside the boundaries of Imperial Wakanda. We can see how quickly the alliance members of all nations aligned against them, how quickly they chose war. Some would argue that they have reason. Some could argue that they were just looking for an excuse. And look what happens when he gave them one. This is what picks us up in the airspace above Wakanda Prime. We see the starships being blasted out of the sky. And then we see Gladiator on the Shi'ar flagship. He's asking for a report. From everything that they have, the Wakandan node-based planetary shields, they're remaining intact in some spots. They're even operating at above 100%. But if they can concentrate all of their fire on a singular node, they might be able to bring it down, enough to get a ground assault team in there. And Gladiator, he waits for the opportunity. When 3 strike frigates are breaking the blockade, when they're making for the planet, he takes this opportunity. With all firepower being focused on that node, he sends the Imperial Super Guardians in. They're going after the one in Vibranium. They're going after the king. But when they get on the ground, when they fight, what they do is they take down Shuri. Because Black Panther, he was never on the planet's surface. It was all a ruse to try and lure them there. Our king, he is on the Vibranium moon of Wakanda Prime. Now, as Black Panther and M'Baku watch, M'Baku thinks that we should respond, that they've already broken through. They've taken prisoners. But Black Panther is not ready to strike yet. Right now, they're targeting as many of the enemy ships as they can. So once they have 70% of this fleet in their eyes, that's when they make their attack. This is what takes us over to Nova and Star-Lord. They've been watching this battle ongoing, hearing the news that they have captured Black Panther's sister. The two of them want to go have a discussion. They want to figure out why this war started to begin with. Now, Shuri tells them that this is all gonna end badly for you guys, while Star-Lord would argue that his father was murdered by a Wakandan assassin 3 days ago. Not only that, but many representatives of every fleet member currently surrounding your world. So it's definitely gonna end badly for somebody. Shuri, of course, denies all allegations against Wakanda, saying that we don't traffic in assassination. If we're gonna come kill you, we'll do it right to your freaking face. That we would sign our names to it. Now Nova, he says that that's what you did. The evidence shows this. Now Shuri wants to know what evidence you're talking about. As we head back over to Black Panther, 70% of the enemy's fleet is in his sight. And so he fires. The weapon performing as planned. The pulse amplified by the moon's vibranium. Over 60% of their fleet now lies dead in space. No primary power. They are all ripe for the picking. This is where he alerts the planet to open up the shields, to launch all attack ships. They crush their enemies today. This is where we pick up on the Gladiator ship, seeing the situation, seeing that Wakanda frigates, they're coming inbound from both the planet and from the moon. And so Gladiator contacts the Queen. He tells Deathbird to get her out of here. Xandra needs to be out. That if she stays, there's a chance she could die. Wakanda has turned the tide to the battle. And so Deathbird, they turn the ship and they try to hightail it out of here, trying to make it to the gateway. With Black Panther breaching the first ship, they get on board and Black Panther, he thinks it's gonna be easy until he sees Hulks. And so as Black Panther stands against two Hulks, we pick up with Nova. We pick up with Shuri. Now Shuri, she's going over all the evidence that they currently have against Wakanda. By all accounts, the money looks real. The transfer is not fraudulent. The king definitely needs to know about this. But the rest, the vibranium bullets, those are counterfeits. And of course they got away with it. How would anybody know any different? This is a weakness when your society keeps secrets so close. There is a specific signature that matches Wakanda's vibranium. This vibranium doesn't match Wakanda Prime nor Earth. This is fabricated vibranium, which is crazy because it is actually more expensive than vibranium. But you can produce vibranium, at least a yield of it, in any number of base metals. Doesn't mean that it's an exact match. Doesn't mean it's as strong. But somebody that isn't sophisticated in vibranium, they wouldn't know this. They wouldn't know what to look for. And this is when it happens. The scrolls turned on everybody. We see M'Baku get stabbed in the side. One by one, they begin assassinating everybody. The word has been given. The Kree-Skrull Alliance is no more. The old ways, they are returning. They are legion in every ship, in every land. With the word being sent out, the battle begins. And so as we pick up with Black Panther versus the Hulks, we see that Black Panther, he's relatively holding his own, at least for a moment. But when he drives his sword into the shoulder of the Hulk sends him flying, telling Black Panther that you ask why I'm here. You know why I'm here. Though T'Challa, he doesn't actually know. He has yet to get the full understanding of what is going on why these nations are attacking him. But as they turn around, they see that they got other problems in hand. With the Skrulls armed to the gills, they come charging in to try and take down Black Panther and the Hulks. And we see on every single ship, the coup is begun. The mutiny is all over. The Skrull have betrayed everybody. That's what takes us over to Nova. Picks us up with Star-Lord. And with Shuri being able to kill one of these guys. Or at least use a nerve agent to drop him down. Star-Lord, Shuri, and our Nova, they're gonna work on retaking the ship. And as they think about this, they're thinking like, what are the odds that everything that's happened in the last week is all random occurrence? And the odds, they're close to zero. There is somebody behind all of this. That the variables are too many to factor. If the Kree still had their supreme intelligence, then it might stand a chance seeing the picture more clearly. But he says that there's no super intelligence out there in the corner of this universe, so we might be out of luck. But Nova says he knows where one is. And so as they hop into a ship, they go find this super intelligence. They go find the evidence that might lead to who is responsible for this entire catastrophe. Aboard Xandra's ship, we think that the Skrulls are going to be the one to take down the Empress. But in fact, it is the Super Guardians. Because her cousin has come in and decided that it's time for a coup. The powers are shifting in the universe. In this one moment, everything changes. Only now are they recognizing that this was a ploy to lure everybody to Wakanda Prime. They came here to blow the Stargate. They did all of this to trap them here. And this is what takes us back to the beginning. Back to those that orchestrated all of this. At the end, we come to this. A perfectly played game, painted across the canvas of cold, unforgiving space. He chose the players. He chose the board. And as such, he cannot lose. Understand what's going on here. Wakanda Prime is under attack by half a dozen galactic empires. They think that Wakanda schemed to assassinate their leaders. Of course, that's not true. But you can't tell that to the Hulk right now. He's on a rampage. Even Amadeus is trying to get through to him. But Hulk, he's simply not listening. And so running from the Hulk, he's using the Hulk to take out some of the Skrulls that have really come to kill all of them. And while T'Challa tries to tell him, like, Dr. Banner, the more that you're fighting me, the more that we're sitting here duking it out, the more time we're wasting. But Banner's not listening. And while he doesn't listen, and the ships around them, it is an all-out battle. An all-out war raging. But more than this, planetside, down on Wakanda Prime, we have a father and his son. Recognizing how badly things are getting, they think they head to the command center. That if we go to the command center, this is the safest place for us. And the son asks his father, are you worried they are gonna find out who we are? But the father says that he has no concern, because anybody that looks upon them is just gonna see people from the desert. Jumping back over to the Hulk, we have him smashing through a wall. And he is proclaiming that Black Panther killed his son. He believes that Black Panther is the one that had killed Hiro Kala. And so obviously there's no stopping this rage. He's gonna keep going, he's gonna keep punching until he gets his hands on Black Panther. So T'Challa recognizes he's gotta go. He knows that there's something more afoot here. Someone has framed Wakanda for all of these killings. What's even more troubling is how quickly everybody was to jump on board. Not a single empire reached out through a back channel. Nobody tried to verify any of the claims. They were all so quick to believe the worst. More than that, the Shi'ar Empire captured his sister. So while he tries to devise a plan to get some space between him and everybody else, Hulk and Amadeus is sitting here trying to talk sense into Banner. Trying to tell him, like, take a breath. Like, why would Black Panther all of a sudden just start murdering leaders across the universe? You know, and maybe he's running from you because the Hulk is trying to kill him. Like, all of these are very valid things to discuss. But T'Challa getting on a ship and getting a secure channel. He gets in communication with the command center. He's told that the moon base, it's gone. Shuri's digital signature, nowhere to be found. The Stargate, obliterated. And their opponent's military standing, more than half of their fleet currently stands without power. The Wakandan attack vessels are outnumbering them. As it stands, they have a great advantage. This is where Black Panther, he decides to send a message to everybody else. From Gladiator to the Accuser, he tells them that if this message reaches you, that means you're still alive. that Wakanda, we've been attacked by foes, once that we considered associates. Under normal circumstances, Wakanda would be blowing them all out of the sky. But he has come to the conclusion that they don't know they have been deceived. That only now are you realizing that deception, but now you're outnumbered. Now you're outmatched. I only wish to find the true culprit who tried to inflict harm on my empire. And so I offer all of you a conditional ceasefire. The only condition, you surrender. And that he knows they're all proud cultures. He knows the term surrender stings. That he would feel the same, but now your enemy seems more clear than ever. And that enemy, it's not Wakanda. This is where the accuser, he terminates the broadcast. And the secondary intelligence, it tells him that the guilt of one does not absolve another, that there must be conclusion. And so the accuser, getting the Kree ships in orbit, they attack the command center on that base. They let the hammer fall. We pick up with Gladiator and Black Panther meeting up. They meet up to finally figure out what the heck is going on. And Black Panther more or less is telling Gladiator, like, you attacked my sister. You disrespected my sister, and you left my sister with the Kree. That you best believe when all of this is done, me and you are having words. But they have 3 prisoners right now, trying to get any information that they might be able to get. All they really get is religious gibberish. The religious zealots. Nothing more and nothing less. Now, Ronan the Accuser, he says that if they wish for war, then let's give them war. Let's show them what war is. The others, they think that there's something bigger at play here. Are the Skrulls really capable of such high-level planning, calculation? All of this points to a higher intellect behind everything going on. But this is all interrupted with the attack on the main command center. As T'Challa makes it onto the ground, he finds that boy. He finds the father that covered his son with his own body to protect him. The father that has died in this attack. And we see Black Panther here, bringing the boy up, apologizing for his loss, and saying that your father, he will be avenged. But the boy says as T'Challa leaves, and T'Challa doesn't hear this, but saying that he doesn't know, he doesn't realize the consequences of this man's death. Of this young boy's father's death, but he says that he will. As T'Challa takes off back into space, we pick up at the Stargate. It has been rebuilt, and now soon it is going to be operational. And with that coming back online, it will be time for Wakanda's counter-offensive. And down here on Sakaar, she's been dealing with a lot of her own problems. Now, there was supposed to be 5 days of peace. 5 days without any violence, all to honor King Hirokala. This is where we see that She-Hulk is standing before the 5 wives of Hirokala. She believes that one of them is responsible. This is what takes us to day 3. Takes us to yesterday. Out here in the courtyard, we got a couple of guys that are duking it out. And as they're fighting, She-Hulk shows up. She tells these guys, like, you guys are making bad choices. And with bad choices, come bad consequences. We see She-Hulk do some good smashing on these dudes. And as the other goes running, she says who's gonna be the next person to break my peace? Wielding her freaking giant anime sword. She says, please somebody try me and I'll have your head. And this is when Conrad, our cyborg, shows up and he's more or less like, do we really want to go down that route? Like, do we want to instill your peace through violence? Nonetheless, he's here for an entirely different reason. Because in Hirokala's throne room, we have another murder. Alistair Stone, primary political advisor to Hirokala. Now, this political advisor, some would say, was a really good one to Hirokala. That he tried to find other means of coming to agreements without going through violence. Hence why he has 5 wives. He found alternative solutions to that violence. Each and every one of his wives, he married them in lieu of battling the kingdom they came from. Every single one of them was was diplomacy through marriage. And so if this murder of Hirokala was political, then who has entrance into this area, into this palace? And the amount of people that are on that list are very limited, with this being able to really narrow down the people responsible for this murder. This is what brings us to the autopsy of Hirokala. When asked how did he die, they can't really determine an exact cause of death. He was stabbed, beat, poisoned, strangled, and even cursed. And so, really narrowing down the people that might be responsible, the lights go out on them. And with the lights going out, they prepare to fight. The fight that they're about to face is all the knight's armor, all of it surrounding them. It all comes to life. It begins shooting crossbows, attacking with swords and pikes, battle axes alike. Lucky for She-Hulk, these are all inanimate objects, which means she can definitely lay down some hate. As we see her bring her mighty sword down on these empty cans, She-Hulk just decimates these things. And when she stands atop the pile of empty armor, she knows who the killer is. She knows who is responsible. Someone that has access to the palace. Signs of a curse. Magically reanimating empty armor. This is all clearly Thorn, Hirokala's third wife. She had the security clearance. She had the motive. And she has magic. And this is where Thorn, she openly admits that she did do it and she would do it again. But this is also when all the other wives, they also stand up. They all also openly admit to killing him. One of them stabbed him. Another poisoned him. Another tried to assassinate him. Magic, poison, curses, every single one of the wives tried killing him on the same exact night. And that's when She-Hulk's like, all right, cool, enough. Like, if we're gonna say all of you killed him, all of you killed Hirokala and Alistair Stone, then you're all under arrest for murder. Then they all look at She-Hulk and they straight laugh in her face. And She-Hulk, she's trying to figure out, like, what the hell is so funny? This is where Conrad says that these women clearly, they have a blood feud. And blood feuds, they're settled in blood. On Earth, murder may be illegal, but here on Sakaar, this is just another Tuesday. Like, Conrad was like, I really thought that you just wanted to have fun figuring out exactly who was the one responsible behind this. Like, there was nothing we could actually do about it. This is just the way of this world. This is how shit goes. But you could kill them. You could kill them for breaking Hulk's decree of peace. And if you don't want to do that, then this is something that we're just gonna remember in the future. Something that you came here with Earth customs, Earth laws. But this is Sakaar. And so as the two of them, they go out and they look at the sunset. She knows that there's no future for her here. Hulk was supposed to return on day 5. On day 5, she was supposed to be able to leave this planet. She would be able to go back to Earth, back to her law practice. But now that day 6 has come upon us, vowing to never return to this planet once she leaves it, she knows that she's not leaving anytime soon. Jonathan Hickman is spearheading the return of an entire empire to understand how all of this is happening, to understand how the Inhumans really play a part in everything going on. We're taken to Fulcrum space. We pick up with Shuri, Nova, and Peter Quill. The three of them, they just barely made it out of that intergalactic battle. The full-on assault of Wakanda Prime. Now, with everything going on, these guys are trying to figure out a way to let people know what's happening, but they also gotta keep moving. And so they do a flyby. Everyone at Fulcrum Station, they kind of just fill them in on everything that's transpired, the ongoing conflict, and really telling them to try and not go and fight, to stay out of it, to simply hope for war. Well, he goes and tries to fix this, to find a solution to save everybody. Picking up during that space battle, we have Hulkling and Wiccan. After their ship had exploded, had it not been for Wiccan's protective bubble, they probably would have been vaporized. And now they're figuring that they're probably screwed. Like, if they can't figure out a way how to leave this place, have somebody come pick them up, whatever it may be, if they can't figure something out soon, they're gonna be screwed. But that's when Wiccan remembers that he's got a get out of jail free card sitting in his pocket. This is what hops us over to Xandar. or what remains of Xandar. They've come here for answers. Outside of the capital city, there's an entry point. This is gonna allow them to get into the treasury, but they're not here for money or gold. This place is an archive. All the remains of this culture, a repository of art, of knowledge, of history. This is the Xandarian Worldmind, but there's no trick to accessing this. Though Nova hasn't really made it clear to everybody, there is a reason that none of the survivors of this empire have come back. There's a reason that nobody's done this yet. This is the only backup of the global consciousness of Xandar. Right now, the world mind is dormant, stable but inactive. Once he activates it, once he turns it on and it's no longer in a dormant state, this would be the equivalent to killing it. They would lose the only archives of their culture, everything that was gone. So if he turns it on, he has to be able to keep it on. The energy cost of this is unimaginable. It'll cost money, lots of it, at least till they can build some kind of containment replacement or something of that nature. And so he's got to ask, can you promise that Wakanda's going to provide what we need when all of this is said and done? And of course, she can't speak for her brother, but she says that she'll try. For Nova, that's not good enough. You're asking me to risk erasing everything of my people. I need reassurances. But Peter Quill, he tells him that I got you. My father's gone. My sister probably isn't gonna make it. Matt, that means pretty much the throne's mine. And with that throne comes wealth. So if it comes down to it, I have your back. This is where we see him activate the world mind. And it already knows what to do. It already knows what he's wanting. With its activation, this is where Nova learns all of it. He learns the truth behind everything that's happening. He learns the architect behind the entire war. And that is what takes us to 1 year ago. That takes us to the Grandmaster. Some would say the greatest strategist in the known universe. And today he meets up with Maximus of the Inhumans. Maximus, he's come to play a game. He's come to play for some very high stakes. You see, the game that they're about to play, if Grandmaster wins, Maximus will gift him the long-held secrets of all their Terrigen. Not only that, he's gonna give them all existing records of Inhuman genealogy. But if Maximus wins, the Grandmaster will owe him a favor at a later date. Obviously, this is very appealing to Grandmaster, but it's also very well known that Maximus the Mad, he seeks favor from no one. And so Grandmaster, he smells a ruse, though that makes it only that much more enticing for him to want to investigate and figure out what's going on here. It's all about the challenge for him. Now Maximus, he sees everything going on. He sees the creation of a new Union superpower. The empires in his corner of the universe, they're plotting, they're trading. It's becoming a really well-oiled machine. He would like to throw a wrench into the gears. He has plans that can only thrive in chaos. But the challenge isn't for their union to fail. It's for him to put them at each other's throats. He needs a war, and nothing less will do. And Grandmaster says that that's easy. That over a long enough time scale, I can make anybody go to war. But Maximus, he puts a time restraint on it. He tells them that you have 1 year, one standard Earth year. And the trick to it all, they can't know anybody that was behind it. The hand, as it were, must remain hidden. Grandmaster says, let's begin. This is where we start to see those fish that have been popping up all over. Jonathan Hickman really did trick us with that one, making us think that it was going to be some kind of cosmic entity, you know, maybe eternity or something of that nature, but in reality, we're just on a place called the Fish Bowl. It's essentially a giant aquarium. And this is where their game is held. This is where Grandmaster really just explains what his opening moves are gonna be. It's not gonna start with one murder. It's gonna start with many. So many strings that need to be pulled. One murder simply wouldn't do. But Grandmaster says that he can accomplish this goal in 11 months and 12 days, give or take. And Grandmaster goes on to explain that what we're about to do is telling a story to all all those that will be caught up in the web of it. And like any story that's well told, the path our players take should appear to be self-determined, while it is anything but. So while they work from a beginning, the murders, that's what they'll give them. They work backwards from a desired endpoint. And just so their efforts, guided by their own hand, will lead them to a conclusion that's predetermined by Grandmaster. Grandmaster being an elder of the universe. He's seen galactic empires rise and fall. He's seen worlds born, their nourishing sun cease to exist. His life is measured in eons. He spent his entire existence being a player of games. He's dedicated his life to this. There is nobody better. This is where we see the pieces begin to move. Now he says lesser players, they might begin by stroking the fires of external conflicts, deep-seated hatred that they're existing in some instances thousands and thousands of years. But he finds that dealing with the Shi'ar Empire, it will be easier to handle them with internal conflict. 10,000 worlds. They're ripe for a class rebellion. The number of decommissioned super guardians has increased recently as newer models have replaced the growing obsolete older warriors from the Annihilation and Ascension Wars. So it's with great folly that the next Super Guardian class scheduled for retirement is the Electron, because it's from very few classes where a common true-born Shi'ar citizen can join the Imperial Guard. But what if he told you that this current soon-to-be cast-aside Electron was rumored to be the secret son of the Mad Emperor? Suppose that by his blood, he had a true claim to the throne. Should he rebel a small army of cast-aside guardians, would they join him? What if they whispered in his ear a secret plan not just to right this wrong, but to deliver the same justice throughout the universe, insisting the Kree chain around scroll necks? And as the Imperial Hobgoblin shapeshifters are undetectable to the scrolls as the scrolls are all to all of us, it will be a true, very believable miracle that their holy empress, resurrected and reborn in all her glory, has returned to preach the good word of righteousness, revolution, and liberty. Because how else would her people respond besides religious fervor? What would be more natural than a second, more aggressive secret scroll invasion? And that's exactly what happened. That is exactly how it all played out. After 11 months of this game, the poisons played, the bullets shot, the revolution beginning, and so it's all come to this, an inflection point. When all eyes turn, shadows rise to reveal the true enemy. And Grandmaster goes on to say how he loves this game, because the truth is, all blind men, they hate the truth. You look at the board and you look at Wakanda, a new alliance of war constructed on the back of an enhanced Stargate system dependent on vibranium, a rare element that naturally only exists within the boundaries of Imperial Wakanda. Do you see how quickly all the alliance's members, all the nations, they all aligned against them? Do you see how quickly they chose war? Some would argue that they had reason to. Others would argue that they were just looking for an excuse. Just like the excuse that Grandmaster gave them. He gave them the fuel, and they banged the war drums. The Wakandans had leverage, and he used it against them. The Skrulls had fervor, a righteous cause. He used it against them. The Shi'ar had plans within plans, so much so that they boxed themselves in. And Maximus, he had made wagers with his betters. He dared to play the game with Grandmaster. At the end, it all comes to this: a perfectly played game, painted across a canvas of cold, unforgiving space. He chose the players, he chose the board, and as such, Grandmaster cannot lose. This is where Maximus says, well done. I have to say that I am thoroughly impressed with you. It looks like you won. I will prepare the inhuman genetic records along with everything else. But Grandmaster tells him to keep them. The truth is, you're an ant. I have no concern about the inner workings of the Inhumans. I just like the audacity of the wager, the impossibility of the task. Now he's gonna put it all back together. He's gonna make Maximus watch as he fixes everything that he just undid. Because Grandmaster, he did exactly as was promised. But he was never gonna leave the universe in this state. Never gonna leave it to what he desired. But this is when Maximus tells him to listen and listen closely. That he's a royal of the Inhumans. He too has seen galactic empires rise and fall. His own was one of them. And as such, this is sit very poorly with the Inhumans. But now they change all of that. Because he spent all his time doing two things. Being a liar and being a cheat. This is what he has dedicated his life to, and there are none better than him. He is a master of his craft. As he places a piece down on the table, he tells Grandmaster that he forgot about a piece. This is where we have the arrival of Black Bolt, ruler of the Inhumans, and a voice that could break you down to your molecules. Now at this, Grandmaster is livid, saying that it's not right, that it's unfair. But Maximus saying, why don't you tell him who won? And with the faintest whisper, Black Bolt says, I won. And we see Grandmaster blown back. Maximus making a joke saying that all things considered, he took that rather well. But he goes on to tell Black Bolt like, I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of stuff going on in the last year. All of it of consequence. He goes on to ask, are we sure we want to take things further? After all, we could just disappear for a few more years, wander the universe, have some brotherly love, some brotherly enlightenment, go on adventures together. This is where Black Bolt just stares at him, and Maximus is like, all right, have it your way, let's go get your empire back. If you've been following the channel, you'll see that we covered the X-Men hunt. And what that was really a follow-up to everything that happened after Krakoa. Professor X pretty much got thrown into a jail cell. And with him imprisoned, he was able to break out. There was a big hunt for him, but it all ended in a climactic scene on the beach. All of the mutants coming and pretty much seeing him off because he said that his daughter was in trouble. There was nothing that was gonna stop him from saving her. And then he took off to the stars and we never saw him again. Until now. And so our story picks us up on the Shi'ar throne world. We pick up with Deathbird and Xandra. And currently, right now, the two of them, they stand opposed the Imperial Guard. You see, during this Imperial War, we saw the Imperial Guard they did do a coup. They rebelled against the Empire. It really didn't take much to move the pendulum. The Imperial Guard was on edge for a long time, and Electron taking the lead, pretty much saying that we're no longer going to be your lackeys, that we have been the fist behind your power for so long, but that ends today. It ends today with a new era, a better era. And as they prepare to behead Xandra, this is where Xandra wakes up on a ship. She has no idea what the heck is going on. The only thing that she does know is that Deathbird, she's behind the wheel. They're taking this cruiser and they're getting out of here as fast as they can. With most of the Imperial Guard standing against them, they have to assume the worst happened to Gladiator. This means that they need new allies. But when Neutron and the others, they show up on the ship, they're able to catch up to Deathbird and Xandra, running as far as they can. Deathbird draws out her swords, and she prepares to fight. They prepare to make their final stand. But as Neutron breaks down the door, once they get inside, they realize that they have all been played. To understand how they were played, we have to go back. Right before that axe had been swung to take Xandra's life, everybody froze. And everybody froze because of Professor Xavier. By his side is Lilandra, Xandra's mother. We saw Professor X more or less bring her back to life, and together they took off the stars to find their daughter. This is where they find her, and in this place, everybody is frozen. Everybody except for the War Stars. Being pretty much mechanical robots, he's not able to affect them, but that's where Charles' beloved comes into play. She pulls out her spear and she puts him down. But with Charles and them showing up, they pretty much are letting Xandra know that we gotta get out of here. Though Xandra wants to stay, she wants to fight, she wants to protect her people, they can't do it from here. They have to get out of here, they have to regroup and figure out their next course of action. Now Electron thinks himself to be in charge. He thinks that he claims the birthright of the throne. They know this to be an outrageous lie, yet he believes it to be true. More than this, the citizens, they're starting to be swayed towards him. The people's rebellion is building. Professor X letting them know that these guys, they have psychic protection. I can only hold them for so long, especially when we're talking about a scale this large. We have to go soon because my control won't last forever. And though they consider ending this right here, killing Electron right where he stands. But this would only make him a martyr. This would make them the tyrants that they're calling them to be. Deathbird knows that they're gonna need a distraction, and so she plans to stay behind. Charles and the others, they're gonna take off while Deathbird stays behind and makes this look real. Charles has done what he can to alter their perceptions, so they'll be confused about the last few minutes. That should buy her some time. Concerned that they're gonna come to and Xandra's not here, Charles manipulates one of the hobgoblins, makes the hobgoblin transform into Xandra, and really, the hobgoblin is believing it is Xandra. So when Neutron had shown up on that ship, what he found was the hobgoblin, he was dead. In his blood, all traitors must die. This is written on the wall, a message left behind from Deathbird. They had been able to make their escape on the jump ship. In that jump ship, they were able to get to a Stargate. But as we pick up with Electron and all the others, now pretty much taking control of everything, there's a secret that the Empire has been keeping. A group of individuals that had been disbanded. So officially, they're not on the record. This gives them greater operational freedom. Combined, they have 3,700 kills, and they're answerable only to him. Officially, they don't exist. But these are the Shi'ar Death Commandos. We have Titanfall, Farstar, Black Cloak, Pale Sun, Supercluster, and Warp Rider. This is the crew that is gonna hunt down Xandra, that is gonna find the Empress and bring her to answer for her tyranny. This is what takes us to Xandra and Charles. After everything that has happened, they sit down and they kind of just have a discussion on what has happened and where they're gonna go next. There's a big weight on her shoulders. She would lay down her life for the Empire. It is her duty to think of herself last, because she has trillions of lives that she must consider. And this is something that Charles kind of understands. He was trying to be the steward of an entire nation, such a small scale in comparison to the empire she's trying to run. And even he failed drastically in that. Really, Xandra, she wants to go back. She doesn't like the fact that she's leaving all of her people, but her parents are letting her know that this is the best bet for right now. We have to get you somewhere safe, and the safest place for you right now is a kind of Shi'ar kept secret. Only the rulers have ever known about it, but it's a planet hidden away from colonization, away from intrusion, a kind of last haven equipped for any eventuality. This is where they regroup. This is where they plan their counteroffensive. But to do this, they're gonna have to call in some backup. There's some lost souls among the stars that are still more than ready to fight for them. And so they call their exiles. They gather the unlikeliest of heroes, and they prepare for war. The story starting us off on Xandra, once home to the Nova Corps, but now it's nothing more than a tomb. We pick up at the moment where he connected to the Worldmind, and as he gets up to his feet, he looks around, and he sees as if everything is frozen. But what is really happening is that he is experiencing time at 10,000% of reality. The Worldmind keeps on saying brain bridge connection failed. It continues to try and reconnect this, to connect to Nova's mind, but it's not able to. The Worldmind tells him that it's critical you pay attention. It tells him to stop fighting me. Now, Richard at this point, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where I am, but what I do know is that I'm not fighting you. And then this is when he sees it. The corrupted Worldmind thought that he had left this behind back in the Cancerverse. That is not the case. It tells Richard, do not fight me. But Nova tries tries to run. He tries to get out of here as fast as he can. Though the corrupted Worldmind tries to reason with him, tries to let him know that we have to establish a connection or this isn't going to work at all. That I can't help you if you keep running from me. But they also can't establish a connection without his consent. This is where he prepares to go full Nova, but then it stops him. It tells him that everything you're seeing right now is not real. You're having a panic reaction to the re-establishment of the brain bridge. You've channeled the Nova Force for so long without one. This is a virtual space. You can't be harmed and it cannot harm you here. But if you channel the Nova Force at such a level, you will kill your friends in the physical world. Finally understanding, he allows it to reconnect. And with their connection, Nova is connected back to the Xandarian Worldmind. This is when they are transported to a graveyard for the Nova Core, still operating at 10,000 times the objective time frame of actual time. This is where the Worldmind really just explains everything that's going on, and they try to figure out what's happening. The Worldmind tells them, because you were away from me for so long, a Nova Corpsman, they're not meant to operate independently like you've been doing. Usage of the Nova Force requires tremendous complexity and sophisticated management protocols. So what happened was your psyche's reaction to re-establishing the brain bridge. But we also learned that this isn't the full power of the Worldmind. This is a backup, because in order for the Nova Core to survive, Richard had to survive. Because of that, the Worldmind Prime was more or less destroyed. And so Xander may be gone, and it only survives through the core. The core, it only survives through Richard. His energy reserves are at about 66%. Though the Nova Force is supposed to be like a limitless primordial energy source, this Worldmind is a backup, a lifeboat for the entire culture and body of knowledge. So it's able to manage the Nova Force, but it's limited in comparison to that of Worldmind Prime. This backup was never meant to be activated like this. It was never supposed to supplement the Worldmind Prime in the event of a catastrophic disaster. It was supposed to do that and nothing more, a temporary patch until they get Worldmind Prime back online. And so while it can access the Nova Core, manage the accessing of the Nova Core for Richard, it cannot use it itself. Now, of course, he's confused on this. He's like, I'm Nova Prime. Like, I've been accessing the Nova Force since losing Worldmind Prime, since before you were activated. So what are you talking about? And it tells him that he had Prime level permissions for access to Nova Force as per core emergency protocols. But with a Worldmind now active, those permissions have been receded, and it is powerless to reinstate those powers. So, the gist of all of this, when Richard uses the Nova Force, the Worldmind pays for it. He has gained knowledge, but it has come at the expense of power. Though the Worldmind would argue that some call this maturity. But now that they've figured that out, they got bigger fish to fry. They gotta figure out who is behind this intergalactic war. Here's what we know. Multiple galactic dominions. We have council member states, all have suffered the assassinations of their head of states. This is destabilized political, economic, and militarily. The goal was obviously to create chaos, to create war. He doesn't believe that Wakanda actually did this. He knows that if Wakanda did this, they wouldn't even know about it. They're too good. And then there's the Skrulls. The Skrulls were easy to blame, but then there's gotta be somebody pulling their strings. They haven't been this motivated since their religious crusade. All of this data he's realizing is too much, and this was the intention. Whoever's responsible for all of this, they meant to flood it with so much information, to make it convoluted, to make it confusing. But if you ignore the noise, if you pay attention to the silence, this is a war that involves every single power. Or does it? Who is suspiciously absent from this war? Who's a galactic player that hasn't been involved in this fight? Who has the most to gain from a state of flux? That's when he connects the pieces. The Inhumans. Now, he doesn't have any proof. He doesn't know how they did it, but he knows that they did it. Coming out of this, telling them that he knows who did this, Peter, Shuri, and him, they take off. They head to Fulcrum. Now, even Peter Quill, he's like, oh man, I don't know about this one. Like, are you sure it's the Inhumans? That's a pretty deep cut. Like, they used to be players, but no one's heard from them in an age. But Nova would argue that these are the guys that took a Kree empire with one ship. They took 1,000 worlds with a single ship. There isn't anything that is beyond the Inhumans. Their biggest problem is that they don't have the proof. If they bring this to everybody else, they're just gonna look crazy. But they do have the analysis of one of the universe's true super intelligence. And then you have the word of a Nova. As Nova, one of the last Novas, Shuri also agrees. She knows it was the Inhumans. After analyzing everything that she's been told, there is no other conclusion. There are extremely few organizations capable of acting against Wakanda without his knowledge. The Inhumans are one of them. After what the Kree had done to them in taking their throne world, they're taking back Hala, and the Inhumans think that nobody is gonna even see what happened. This is what takes us down to Fulcrum. An incoming transmission. It is Medusa. Medusa of the Inhumans. She speaks to the Kree Empire and all allied states. She is here to speak for Black Bolt. She says that the Skrulls are the true enemies, that they are many shapes but they cannot hide their true natures. They betrayed their alliance with the Kree, and so the House of Aegon has come to save the people, come to save all the Kree. The Inhumans have come to save everybody. The Inhumans are our saviors. But what about the Skrulls? How were they duped into going about this, into following along with all of this? And to understand that, we have to understand the Skrulls. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Varanki is kind of like the Queen Skrull, prophetic in sense. Almost like a messiah to her people. But she was never a god, she was just a priestess. Kind of the architect behind everything that happened with Secret Wars. With her rise to power, the Skrulls fought back. And with her demise, Skrulls have found themselves kind of aligning with everybody else. But all of that is about to change. This is what picks us up with Gamora and Darkhawk, aka Christopher Powell. And they're really bringing out a deep cut. We're bringing in Darkhawk. Like, when I opened up this comic, the last thing that I expected was freaking Darkhawk. The Pal, Falconeer, Edgeman. Now, for those that don't know, Darkhawk's body is known as like the Raptor. It's like a techno-organic construct that possesses enhanced physical abilities. Does all kinds of awesome alien-type stuff. This all reverts back to the Tree of Shadows in Null Space. The origins of his armor is really kind of unknown to him. Now, him and Gamora, they're currently investigating rumors. They've been getting whispers about the return of a prophet. And with everything going on in the galaxy, if this prophet is returned, it could turn everything upside down. While they sit here in battle, we have the arrival of Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers comes flying in, helps him out a bit, and then they catch up. Now, Gamora's not really with the Guardians of the Galaxy anymore. They're not really a group as it stands. But Gamora and Darkhawk, they met up a couple weeks back. They've been investigating this potential threat, and Carol Danvers is here for the same reason. This is what brings them to this temple, to this place of worship for the Skrulls. They're hoping that coming here they might be able to find something. It was all rumors at first in the Outworlds. They were dismissed at first, but the stories kept happening. Stories of a prophet, of a goddess returned. And they all know the proverb, when the Skrulls shift, trouble follows. But Captain Marvel knows that Varanki is dead. Captain Marvel watched her die, but even the idea that she may be reborn puts us in very fragile times. They're on the verge of a galactic union. If the Kree-Skrull alliance were to fail, this would end all of those peace talks, all of the alliances, all of the unions coming together under the galaxy. All of this has made it to where they want to investigate. They want to figure out what is happening here. Now, Captain Marvel does question why Gamora is involved in all of this. Gamora's just trying to really be the opposite of her father, trying to be the opposite of Thanos. But when it comes to Christopher Powell, he goes on to say that he's not a hero, that he's bonded to a remote sentient. This is all through his armor, but he says it's hard to explain. No one really understands it. He doesn't even really understand it. He receives information, predictive data, and this sentience has been telling him for years. He just hasn't been listening properly. Now he says he is. The raptor suit being an instrument built by ancient intellect. It has some kind of purpose, a deep purpose, a long game, and everything the suit has ever told him about its origins has been a lie. Gamora does kind of back him up here though, says that his data is credible, and while Chris doesn't necessarily say he believes all of these visions that he sees, he also says that they've never been wrong. Over the next couple of months, the three, they kind of work together. They try to figure out the location of where this prophet might be. This leads them to a location that has metamercs. Now, these aren't your average run-of-the-mill mercenaries. You hire these guys when you need somebody really protected. So much so that these mercenaries, they're illegal to hire. Their kind is outlawed in the Alliance territories. This leads them to believe that the prophet must have been here. It had to have been recently, because you don't hire this kind of guards, this kind of muscle, unless you're really trying to protect somebody. Given two possible locations, this is where they split up. Captain Marvel hearing about Throne World and the possibility that a prophet could end up there. It could mess up everything. So Captain Marvel's like, I'm headed there. You guys go to the other location. Let me know what you find. If you find something, holler at me. I'll bring the muscle, I'll bring the Avengers, and we'll take care of this once and for all. This is what takes us to our prophet. The reborn queen makes her arrival to our Super Skrull. We have Klort, Defender of the Faith. And even he, looking upon her, he's hesitant to believe that it's her. But she tells him that the Kree are our enemy, yet we are treating them like brothers for the sake of peace and living in an alliance. We now accept their oppression, and in a few short months, the Galactic Union is going to render a galactic hierarchy. It's going to be concrete and absolutes. So the state of where we're at is going to remain permanent, but we still have time to act, to change our destiny. And our Super Skrull, he knows that there would be no coming back from this. The price of blood would be high, though if our queen asked us, there would be no price we wouldn't pay. Our Super Skrull knows the cost of this. He knows that if we do this, we either have to go all in and be successful, or our kind will be shunned forever. As he goes to think on this, our queen goes to her bedchambers. And in her bedchambers, she is met by the knife of Gamora. The queen is actually a Shamloid. She are Super Guardian, Hobgoblin class. Undetectable to Skrulls as Skrulls are to everybody else. All deception, all lies. The queen isn't actually alive. The prophet hasn't risen from the grave. It was all deception. And they have to wonder, what would the Super Skrulls do if they found out that you were a lie? But they don't have to think. This is where they barge in, and Klort grabs hold of this dude and chokes him out, burns him right down to a crisp. This pretender never stood a chance. But our Super Skrull goes on to say, no one must know of this. You see, the Super Skrull decided that it's true. If this union of the galaxy is to go through, their place is going to be permanent, which means they can't rise any higher than where they are. This is something that he decided can't stand. That she was a lie, but her truth, it was not. And so through our Super Skrull, the prophet will live on. Being able to drop a bomb on the Skrull, they're able to get away, but they know that they're not far behind. They try to make their escape getting to their ship, but this is where they run into Maximus the Mad. And Maximus is saying that no one must know. Telling him, I'm gonna plead you my case. I hope that you can hear me out, that I admire your efforts. You've puzzled out my plan long before anybody was supposed to. That means that you're incredibly capable. I could have use for you, but I can't have you ruining my plans. That you gotta trust me, the Union, it will prevail, but you can't ruin my plans before they actually get to unfold. Now, Gamora knows that this is Maximus the Mad. Nothing he ever says can actually be trusted. With that being said, Maximus brought in some heavy guns. Because if you're not going to be reasoned with, if you're not going to talk to me, if you're not going to have a discussion with me, then I'm going to have to put you down. This is where Maximus calls in the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Telling the Cosmic Ghost Rider to kill them. The two charge in, but they quickly get put down. And even Ghost Rider's like, man, that seems like such a waste. And Maximus, he tried to reason with him. He tried to tell them, but they didn't want to hear it. With them two being gunned down on their own ship, Maximus and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, they head off to their end game. Let's find out if they can follow through. Alright guys, so we're picking up in Fulcrum space. An entire space fleet descending on Fulcrum Station, and all the command decks, they're communicating with one another. The Kree are recognizing multiple Skrull frigates. On the Shi'ar command deck, they're saying that the Kree are saying the station is controlled by Skrulls, by Gladiator, and that they've captured the rest of the base. Though there are a few accusers that are holding out. And that's when Gladiator is hearing that there is a Shi'ar citizens notice going out. Only Shi'ar citizens are allowed in Shi'ar space. This has been enacted across the Empire. And so Gladiator and his forces, they all pack it up and they go home. But there is still Hulk and Black Panther. They're gonna find their way onto the ship. At the Fulcrum control level, this is where we have our accusers, fighting off a horde of Skrulls. They're thinking this might be enough, that they might have enough time, but quickly recognizing that the only thing they can do is ensure that the docking bay stays open, smashing it and making sure that nobody can close it. They'll have their vengeance one way or another. This is when they are met by the Super Skrull, as they stand toe-to-toe with it. The righteous accusers of the Kree, the super weapon of the Skrull. They charge in with their hammers, but they were never a match for this fight. Grabbing one of them and telling them to confess. The only confession that he gets is that the doors have been jammed, destroyed the control panel, so there will be no escaping justice for you. But our Super Skrull does not fear judgment. We say Clort pick up both accusers' hammers, and they prepare for visitors. With Black Panther and our Hulks crash landing into that docking bay, we're picking up at Stargate 2348. We have Nova, Shuri, and Star-Lord. They've all returned to see that Fulcrum is on fire, that it's already started and it might already be too late. While they try to find their way onto the station, we pick up aboard the Inhuman stealth ship that's watching, that's observing. Max, with his diabolical self, is just in absolute awe watching it all unfold, watching the fruits of their labor right in front of them. But Max tells him that if it's any time to go, now is the time. Make your entrance, let it be known. Black Bolt of the Inhumans has returned. This is what picks us up at the docking level. We have Hulk, we have Amadeus, and we have Black Panther. The three of them, they are just blasting their way through all the Skrulls. But they're not trying to stop and engage. They're cutting a path to the command level. They're trying to get there as quickly as possible. But while they're making their mad dash, this is where they run into Black Bolt. Both Black Bolt, Black Panther, they both pause. Nobody says anything. Everybody just listens to our Super Skrull as he talks about rising up above everybody, about taking their rightful place among the stars. Talks about the Boy King, the most recent ruler, how he was never actually gonna lead the people. And even Hulkling watching this, he's like, damn bro, like I tried, at least I tried. But America Chavez shows up and lets him know that Wiccan is in pretty bad shape and needs some help. So it looks like that we're gonna have Hulkling going down a whole new path, something we're gonna talk about here at the end. Outside of Fulcrum, this is where we have Star-Lord and the others. They're able to get on the ship, looking like the coast might actually be clear. They start hightailing it down these pathways until they run into an entire squad of Skrulls. Outside of the command and control center, this is where we have Hulk. He's absolutely just decimating any Skrull that stands in his way. Fact of the matter is, they're no match for him. None of them are. As we watch Clort battle our accusers, Clort dual-wielding hammers himself. Him and Ronan are going toe-to-toe. And though Ronan a tremendously great fighter, he was no match for Clort, as Clort takes the hammers and he drives them into the shoulders of Ronan. Now imagine that. He takes the handle of the accuser's hammers and he drives them into his shoulders, pinning him in place. But when he does this, he also gets smashed by Amadeus. That's when Clort turns on him and he hits him with that rock punch. And while Quirt might believe that he has the upper hand here, that there's no one that's gonna stand in his way, we still have Hulk, Black Panther, and now Black Bolt, all joined together, and they're headed for the command center. The Empire numbered their citizens somewhere in the trillions, and as hundreds and thousands wage their lives in this space battle outside of Fulcrum, the future of all these worlds, they're gonna be determined by 4 individuals: the King, the Warlord, the Prophet, and the last of them hidden away, a secret ruler trying to make his rise up, trying to bring his empire back from the brink, who is perhaps in all ways responsible for everything that transpired today. The 4 of them battle, they duel, but as these 3 battle against our Super Skrull, we see the Hulk smash, we see Black Panther lay down some hate, and we see Black Bolt unleash his voice. History is written by the winners, and the truth always arrives too late. With Nova and Star-Lord arriving, it's already too late. It doesn't matter what happened. Seeing Black Bolt here, side by side with Black Panther and Hulk, it doesn't matter what started this war. This war is already over. This is what takes us to 1 week later. We have Shuri, Nova, and Star-Lord all having an argument. The argument is that Black Panther, T'Challa, has decided this matter is settled. Even after learning everything, learning how Black Bolt and the Inhumans are behind everything, he let it go. Once everything's been accounted for, the Wakandan Empire actually ended up on top. Once all accounts have been settled, they benefited more from this than anything. You see, Wakanda has changed. Maybe back to what it should have always been, because there is only one voice that matters in Wakanda now. The Wakandans, they tried democracy, they tried councils, they tried every form of fair political structure, but what they did learn is that if you're gonna build an empire, you need to have a very specific, very particularly brutal type of work. Hard decisions followed by impossible ones. And politicians, aristocrats, they're not cut out for this. This is not their bread and butter. They rather squalor and bicker and argue. No, you need a king. And so T'Challa has taken back his empire. He is now King T'Challa again, king of all Wakanda. Even knowing all that they know, they don't care. This is the way forward for them. As Shuri sees herself out, we have Nova and we have Star-Lord. Now Nova, he's like, it's up to us. We have to let everybody know that we can't let the Inhumans get away with this. As Peter remains silent, Nova already knows. Now Peter tries to explain. He tries to say that this idea, the Union, this was his father's vision. He feels obligated to complete this. And though Nova would love to try and stop them, there is no stopping this. Rich acts of political will, actions like this, when they're announced, it's only a formality. All the deals have been done. The deed is done. This isn't a matter of discussion. It's already happened. But Peter does tell him that I know this cost you a lot, but you don't have to worry about the Worldmind or having the money to keep it up. Peter says that he's gonna cover it all. That's the least he could do for a friend. This is when Nova hits him. He blasts him right into the window. And Nova tells him that you can keep your damn money. Don't ever call me a friend again. Back at the Inhumans' royal family throne room, we have Black Bolt sitting upon his throne, Medusa by his side, and Max coming into the room. He's cheering, he's excited, he's happy. He's like, all we've accomplished, pretty freaking impressive. Everything that we've done, now what do we do next? Medusa goes on to explain that Hala and the Empire, that's what comes next. But for Maximus, something else. You see, Maximus is being exiled. Medusa says that I don't know what happened between the two of you, where you've been the past year, and how this relates to our king having found himself wanting you removed from the royal family. But that is his decree. The others say that us Inhumans, we tire of being swept from one position to the next. We have one singular goal, Inhuman ascension. And in this, Maximus cannot be trusted. Maximus starts to lose it for a second, and he tells Black Bolt, like, are you kidding me? I put you on that throne. I spent the last year humiliated by an elder of the universe so that you could sit upon that throne, so you could be crowned king. And I'm met with abandonment, shame, betrayal, that you have cut me deeply, that I bleed, but I have also never been more proud. Maximus takes off and he's like, you know, it's fine, because you're gonna need me again, and when you do, I'm gonna be here waiting with love in my heart. As we pick up with Black Panther, met by Shuri, she obviously has some questions. Wants to understand what the hell is really going on here. You know, you swallowed insults and accusations. You agreed to this union. You buried the dead and comforted the survivors. She wants to know why. What are you planning next? T'Challa looking out to the stars, looking out to the universe. He tells Shuri that you want to know what's next. Come and take a look out the window. Last but not least, we have Star-Lord raising up a toast to his dead father. The day that his father had fought for is finally upon them. It's finally arose. The Union of Worlds exists. The only real defection were the Shi'ar. They reverted to their traditional go it alone, fight everyone ways. And the Skrulls, who have discovered their religion based on an inhuman lie that they're really just not gonna talk about. This would normally drive him a little insane, but it looks like it's not gonna be at all easy for them to be able to take the Kree throne. From what he understands, there's a group of an accuser class, a growing number of questions that they want answers to. Many of are refusing to embrace Black Bolt until they get those answers. And then there are other rumors. One of a kind of messianic Kree message. Someone going around talking about how they're from another universe, where their Kree are more powerful, more advanced, more cunning. Another rumor of twins. One word, Veil. But until his sister is stabilized, Star-Lord has no other option until she is recovered. Heavy is the crown, and long live the Union. That is where this issue will end. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Now, this is not the end of Imperial, though it is the end of our introduction to everything that is going to happen moving forward. From Planet She-Hulk to Nova to Black Panther Intergalactic. There's a lot more to come on the way. I think my biggest disappointment from Imperial is probably going to be the lack of Charles Xavier. You know, they really did, or maybe it was just me. You know, maybe I hyped it up too much thinking that Charles was going to be a part of this. You know, they were like, oh, Charles is headed off to the stars. He's going to go rescue his daughter. And in a sense, he did, but then they kind of just disappeared. They kind of just bounced out from everything going on. We have to assume that they're going to make their comeback. This was an interesting story. So what we really get here is the Inhumans' push to reclaim some kind of seat of power. They wanted a seat at the table, and they did whatever was necessary to get that seat, causing absolute chaos within this union before it can even really get footing. He causes all the chaos, Black Bolt does. And then he comes in as a hero. He comes in at the last minute, helps put down any Kree that are in the way, and then rises to hero. All the powers that be, they agree to this. T'Challa, Hulk, everybody. And in that instant, the war, the battling stops. I would love to say that I hate the outcome of this, but is this not as close to reality as you can get when talking about these kind of stories? Because at the end of the day, it's the rich and powerful. It's those in charge that dictate when and how a war begins, starts, and ends. Everything else in between is just cannon fodder. Everybody else in between, their lives, their deaths, everything. It is meaningless to the overall plot. Black Bolt did his scheming just right to where he was able to slide in, get his position of power. And T'Challa's accepting of this. We don't know what terms they made. We don't know what deals have been made. But what we do know is that Black Panther, he is now back to being king of Wakanda, and his eyes are intergalactic. When it comes to Hulkling, now Hulkling is a kind of disappointment that we never did anything with him running a whole empire. Like, there were a couple stories here and there a couple years ago that had him really leading and charging, but it's kind of like Marvel didn't really want to do anything with it. They were like, yeah, Wiccan and Hulkling are together. They're running an empire, but we're not going to write any stories about that at all. They're like, we're not going to do anything with this. But now they're bringing them back down to Earth. If you had read any of the comics, you knew that Hulkling didn't really want to be doing that anyway. Wiccan was just there as kind of spousal support. So it makes sense that they're bringing them back down to Earth and hopefully giving them some kind of new direction. One thing is for certain though, Marvel's landscape has changed. The Inhumans are back at the table. And while this battle may be over, the intergalactic war has only just begun. So, let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything that is going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. That's gonna get you completely caught up on everything that has been going on so far with Imperial. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. This is a lot like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50 from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel, you're getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me the favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.